Hi there, traders, and welcome to Trade the Structure and the start of a new trading week. So we're just coming to the start of the Asian session. Going to take a look at what happened into Friday's close of the US session, and just see that little ramp up in the into the close on the SPY, which is quite interesting. So we'll take a look at key levels we want to work off. Okay, so we're just always looking for what the action's telling us and what key levels we want to work off, what sort of price action we're looking for into the open. So let's get started. We're on the 5 minute chart on the SPY 200. Now this is that little ramp higher. Now it's not big in point terms, but it's quite a big move in comparison to what was happening during that session most of the time anyway. So it looks like the market. This is the close of the ASX session. That's right. That's what I'm looking for. And we just opened up, pretty much went up, popped up, and then sold off. That was somewhere, at the start of the US session. We sold off through the support at 74.53 before finding support again and lifting back up, straight back down again, and then that last minute effort just to ramp up into that 74.91 area into the close, which is look, it could be a short squeeze, but only real shorts that squeeze now is sort of in this leg down. These leg down here would have been squeezed out with this little ramp up, and then that push up into support. I think they were just trying to hold it up off support there. Okay, to me, it looks like they're trying to hold that high low, ramp it up into the close, and then maybe today we're looking to push up into that 75.09 on the open. So the open is going to be interesting to see which way they ramp it. Okay, so on Friday, that market was negative, well and truly negative, and we ramped back up. So a lot of the times on the open, when it's been negative overnight, it's ramped up on the open. So I just want to see how that opens up. If it starts to chop around here, we might get a bit of a squeeze down. It may open a bit lower, may open just down here and sort of flush back into that 74.53. We're just waiting to see that open for now. If you look at the 30-minute chart in the ASX 200, now that trend has been, trend up has been broken. You can see that trend up. It's still, to me, there's a big potential to hold a lower high. Okay, it's 75.22 potentially, or you could just pop up. When we could get all the way back up to 75.50 and then start to fade and make that sort of a double top, a retest fail, major on a more of a major scale, more on the daily basis. So to me, it's not looking, even though we've got that sort of slam higher, no one's really willing to get in short anyway because the market has been really well and truly supported. Same in the US, the algos are ripping it up a lot of the times into the close. Okay, just to stop it from looking like it's going to be a bit of a sell and to stop dragging in some buys. So look, maybe that's what they're doing, maybe they're not, but the algos are definitely at work into the close. Not so much, really not on the downside at all. So it just seems a bit strange. But we're seeing, markets are pretty much going sideways. They're having to contend with inflation, where we know higher inflation means less money to go around, especially in Australia with the housing market. I'm just reading a good article about the unaffordability of housing and what it's taking, what it's sucking out of the economy in the way of household incomes. Now, household incomes are going up nowhere near as much as house prices. So if you're trying to get into the market, good luck. If you're not, if you're already in the market, it makes it a bit tougher, especially if you got in later with these higher prices, because like I said, wages growth is low. The cost of living, inflation, everything adds up, which means there's less money to go around into shares, okay, to punt on the shares. And that's traditionally what happened, but at the moment, we're not seeing a major reaction down to any sort of tightening. Now, jobs on Friday in the US come out, and they were a lot stronger than expected. Well, not a lot stronger than expected, sorry. They were really strong, but as expected. Wage growth was pretty much in line, which is up. So you can see it's the economy is ticking along nicely over there in the US. Inflation's still kicking on. Oil's coming off a bit, which is a good thing. But all in all, people are paying more for more, okay, to get, your sort of necessities like oil and stuff like that. I mean, for example, you can see cost of petrol. Now, I was just thinking about this. We've had a 20 or something cent drop from the excise price from the government. Yet last time, and it's now I'm looking at petrol around $2. Now, last time it was trading at $2, oil was well above that. Oil was about $1.20 or so. It went nuts. Okay, now we're back down $1.20, and it can only just get below that sort of that $2 area. And most we're looking at petrol around 178. So it's already been factored in. It's been ramped up higher. The price of oil straight back down again, and the cost of petrol is still high, even though that excise price has been taken off slightly. In some areas, they're really not giving back. Say it's 20%, 20 cents. I'm not sure exactly what it was. Say it's 20 cents. They're giving back 10, so they're keeping it. Okay, which means longer term we're just paying more. Okay, so that's why I'm sort of a bit. I'm not biased down, but I'm very cautious that this market may not just tank out of the blue. And it looks like, the algos are trying to just keep it up, trying to buoy it, but sooner or later it's going to give way. Okay. And everyone's sort of waiting for that. I think a lot of people are. I mean, there's still some bullish moves, there's still some really good moves, but I think longer term, we're either going to just go sideways, I would expect from here, or we're going to start to roll over to start to take out and push into new all-time highs. I feel like it's a big ask with the current environment where we are at the moment. Looking at the Asian markets now, they ramped up on Friday. Okay, out of the blue, we've come into this support zone. This is the Hang Seng. Come to the support zone here, opened up, flushed out, and was up all the way up until the start of the US session. And you can see, I actually thought there's news breaking here. Something good happened, but it wasn't. It was just the Hang Seng taking off. That was, look at that rally there. That rally alone on that move was 350 points. Now, it's a massive move out of the blue. When Europe didn't go with it, nothing else was going. It was just the Hang Seng. So that's, like I said, that's getting ramped up by some algos. They wanted it up at these levels. So it's interesting to see what happens if we just flushed out through these highs. Are we going to fade today? Are we going to fade back down to the reverse of what we did, here? Maybe pop up and then fade, which I'm sort of banking on. Not banking on, but that's what I'm biased towards. This sort of green action, bit of a flush up here and then fade. Okay, maybe taking out a lot of these longs that are built up. Maybe we're going to push back up to that 22,375, but either way, that move up was quite strong on Friday. It didn't let up right up until, what time was that? It started the US session where it started to find some selling. We come back into that support at 22,135. So yeah, you can see it's really started to ramp higher. On a daily basis, this could be a big top, a big retest fail, okay? But we'll keep an eye out for that one. When it opens, it's going to be the key. Now, the Nikkei. Look at the Nikkei. The Nikkei had pretty much that flush down to that support 27,387 at the start of the Asian market session, and then straight up. Okay, again, all one-way action. You can see that was well controlled all the way up, right up until it was just after the start of the US session where it got sold back down again. They didn't really think it was going to come down, but you can see that sort of high, that was around the 1230 mark. So actually, it was just about here. So that was the high which matched off with the Hang Seng. Hang Seng went straight down. The actual Nikkei started to hold up, trying to hold up before it gave way. Okay, just some selling, just squeeze out a lot of these longs. Now, it did hold up off that 27,605 area. This action is very choppy, the way it was ramped up here and it's been faded. It'd be interesting. I don't really know which way I want to be biased today because I want to see what happens at the start. I want to see which way, if we do flush into this low and it starts to hold, then off 27,605, then maybe looking for a high low to get long and see if we can get some of this action again back up through that 27,847. We'll wait and see. Otherwise, it could just flush up into these highs and then fade off that. That's sort of the two scenarios I'm looking at. I think, from that move up on Friday, longer term, that market's down. You can see it's popped up here, faded down, popped up here. Maybe we need a retest before we get another fade, and that's a key lower high, something like this zone in here. Otherwise, longer term, we've probably have to change it back. Let's just go back to a 15-minute chart. Longer term, and if that's a key lower high, it would a long way to go down, but we could have easily just find this as support, find this 27,604 as support, and then start to ramp back up and look back up towards 28,058. Okay, so we just need to see some action today. It's kind of pivotal what the open's going to do, what the sort of after the first hour or so, we'll probably end up waiting for the Hang Seng to open again and be very tame. We'll see. Now Dow held below 34,892. Okay, it's a good little move down. We grounded our way back up. We were speaking about this on Friday, whether it's going to just fade off that level, and it gave us a really good entry setup off that level. And you could see that by just this kind of move. Okay, once you get there, you're dropping it down. We're on a 30-minute chart, dropping it down a 5-minute chart or something, just to see if you can get a lower high off that MAs. Okay, which pressed all the way down to 34,565. That's it, 34,565. Now that was just after the open too, so after pay rise come out quite strong. I was actually shorting it in there when I was lying in bed, so not the world's best trading environment, but it was comfortable. Had a bit of a short on there, didn't get too far before I fell asleep, basically wanted to go to bed. So that it pressed into that support. We flushed out these lows. You can see with this little wick down low, took out the stops, any stops below it. And that's just trading. Anyone that's sort of nabbing some longs off that level or trying to nab some longs just got stopped out before it ramped straight back up again. So it's whether we flush down, which I'm kind of, just the way the US trades, kind of looking for that flush, see if we can hold a high low and see if we can get a bigger move up through 34,892. Okay. Yeah, because all fear of inflation aside, the market, it seems to have one way at the moment. It's still getting well supported. Okay, we'll wait and see what happens. But I'm expecting this kind of action will be into the open of the US session, not so much in Asian markets, where it's going to ramp up. This is a 30-minute chart. It's going to take a few candles to make that. Otherwise, we sort of spike now, I think, and get this kind of action back off It's a lower high of 34,892. And I don't think the US is not going to want it to get out of hand on the upside before they're open. All right, so it'd be more likely that it'll be buoyed between these two levels. Maybe we get some sort of fade, you know, into the, like I said, into the US Open, get some sort of high low to work off, and then ramped up on the Open. Otherwise, we could test down here, just sort of range into that level between those two levels there, 34,565, 34,892. All right, US Tech, it's been in a nice little trend down. This is different to sort of you saw on the Dow that moved down, it bounced back quite hard. Now you look at the Nasdaq or the Tech, US Tech 100, it's pressed down off 14,956, and that was the same action we were talking about on Friday. You flush through the lows, you grind your way back, retest it, hold, and then fail. Okay, so you're looking for that selling on the open, and it was in the open there. Yeah, it was smack just at the start, 11:30 and 12:30. So you can see the move down, the trend is down. We've reclaimed half of that leg basically. So you're sort of looking at that. If we're going to hold, this little inside level here, maybe that level there tonight, we're going to start to fade and push down through these lows. That's what I'll be biased towards at the moment, and maybe push into that 14,640 area. But we'll wait and see. It's mainly got to do with what happens in the Asian market today, whether that can sort of stand up. The DAX, now the DAX, you can see this move down here. We're looking at whether this is going to be retest or not, and it basically went into that level, consolidated around there for a while at 14,565, and then faded all the way back down to 14,318. Now this move into here was just a level you could have marked up, not a key level at all, but it's just a key level. It was key level, wouldn't say that. Just a level that was traded. You can see that flush there before it ramped up all the way up here and holding high lows all the way up. And then now we've just sort of pushed into that level. It could be a lower high coming in, which would mean that we're going to fade straight through that level at 14,318, potentially into this, into this level at 14,120. There's no reason why we can't get down to there. Okay, but for now, everyone's really, European markets sort of sitting around. Asian markets tend to sit around waiting for the US. Okay, we tend to sit around waiting to see what the US does. A lot of it, we're choppy action lately during the day session, and then we start to lift outside of hours, okay, in the overnight session. And the same with sort of Europe, tends to flush around on the open and then wait to see a direction from the US to see what they do. Okay, so maybe it's going to be a bit of the same. We might chop around here, test into these lows. We might just fade into these highs, fade off these highs, which means I'd like to see a sort of a chop around here, fade up there into the open and see if we can get a flush down. To me, that action, that's kind of an expansion. That's kind of contraction. We're looking for expansion again. So with the way this is looking, expansion is going to be to the downside. UK 100, it's been quite strong. We were talking about this on Friday also. You've got this big flush thrust, took out the highs, and it's basically those highs, not convincing. When you're getting through there, it's just suckering in. It's what it's doing is searching for liquidity, taking in some longs, squeezing them out, taking in some longs, squeezing them out. More of your short-term intraday traders, squeezing them through the highs, back down again to squeeze them out. So it's giving them, you might be 1 or 2 or 5 points up. And then if you're going to hold that, you're going to be 50, 40, 50 points down. Okay, so it's just searching for liquidity through those highs before we failed. That was a key failure. Okay, we failed down. The market's been grinding up. Big failure through this low to me is that was kind of your higher low for that move up through 75.84. We've broken that at 75.17, but it's been a bit of a grind up again. Okay, so maybe we're doing the same sort of thing, just looking for liquidity, just to drag some buyers in before we get another expansionary leg down. But you want to see that kind of action. You need to see a lower high come into play, something like that, maybe something around here. We might flush up, come back down. We start to hold below the MAs and get a bit of a fade. Then that lower high, I think, could take us down through 75.17 into that 74.65 area. Otherwise, it'll probably just continue to be a grind up. Okay, the Aussie. Now, the bigger picture, it looks like we're just going sideways from here. The market's been pressing high. It's getting up and towards these highs, just below 75, a major level at 75.65, but it's been going sideways, okay? You can see any sort of flush to the downside has been soaked up again. We flushed up here, ramped back up again. We pushed back down these lows, tried to go back up again, back into the lows. That should have led to, if it was weak, should have led to a move through those lows, but it didn't. We got straight back up again. Okay, so it's about that US dollar. Now the US dollar is rallying, which, like I said, US dollar rallying and the Aussie market, Aussie's going sideways, which means there's some love for the Aussie dollar itself. Okay, so generally, with higher inflationary numbers or anything, the US dollar is going to get supported, which it did on Friday. Found it ramped up pretty much after the number. Actually, the start of the European session, I think it rallied. So it was rallying up from the start of the European session and into the US Open and through the US session, just grinding its way up, which would mean if the Aussie wasn't worried about RBA rates, then it would go down. but it's not. It was going sideways, so it was kind of like they're offsetting each other. Some buying into the Aussie because of rate rises potentially, and the US as well. Whereas Euro, so yeah, sideways for that one. Potentially, I would expect any sort of flush into these levels to be supported again, okay, and any push into the highs kind of rejected for now, anyway. So the euro, like I just said, they're not really talking up rate rise in the European for the euro, which would mean that when the US dollar rallies, that's going down, which is what you saw. Okay, you can see this market, flush up to this high, 111.36, back down, consolidate through here, keep getting sold into, sold into, sold into. So that action through there, this is probably it's about the start of the US session, so it didn't do a hell of a lot. Maybe this leg down is getting a bit extended, and people are expecting it's getting a bit extended, and we might need to see a bit of a pop, and then get another lower high before it starts to really fade. Or, like I said, we were looking at this trend up. That's your sort of kind of a channel. Okay, it was trading through that channel. Maybe it's just going to grind its way back down, and maybe it's chop around here, something like this. Bit back up, grind its way down, back up, grind its way down until we get down to sort of 110.03 or 109.62 area, or even by the time it gets there, it could be just around this level here at 110.03. So we'll keep an eye. That's only 40 pips away or so, which would mean that the market could continue to ground there. You would expect, if that's the case, you're going to get some strength into the US dollar. But the US dollar still, let's just see, it's just, that's the US dollar there. You can see how it's sort of lifted. That was the start of the European session. Straight up, that was a flush down and over the number. 12 or 130, that was the open actually, just after the open, and then we ramped straight up after that. So we continue to power higher. It's all, the US is just sort of ranging between these two levels, as we've spoken about a few times, ranging between these two levels until it finds more of a clear direction, or until they start lifting rates. It's more confirmed what they're going to do with rates. You might get that spike up in the US dollar. Okay, so we'll wait and see what happens there. But either way, if that continues up to this resistance zone, 99.30 thereabouts, then you would expect that euro to go down, okay, and take out some of these lows. So you'd be looking for more of, maybe a trade through that low, maybe through that low, okay, kind of boxing that up like that. That's your risk, that's your entry, and you're looking for that move down to 110.03. Okay, the pound's a bit more messy. That's the move down. It found some support off that level, 130.88. We've spoken about that before it lifted up. But then it's got up and through these highs, through that 131.60 before it faded again. Okay, it flushed up through that level, straight back down. Okay, this higher low should have led, if it was strong, should have led to a move up to that 32.10 or even higher. But it didn't. It faded again at a lower high. So you can see that's your high. That's just taking out some stops. Looking for liquidity, like we're saying. Back down again, found that support, back up. Just spiked through, wicked through that level, just taking out a few more stops. Anyone that's maybe was shorting it again off that level, just flushed them out. And now we look like we're starting to roll over from here. So for me, I'll be biased down. I reckon that looks like a pretty good trade through, we got that resistance and the way it flushed through 31.15. If we sort of get this lower high come into play, it's not a bad little trade on the downside for a potential break through 30.88. Now that's big support. Now if that plays out, say now, for example, if you start to look through maybe a break through that, and you've got your risk reward set up, you boxed it up, it breaks through the low, you've got your risk above here, and it goes down to that support zone before the European market opens. It's going to be a tougher one because they tend to, as soon as the market opens, they'll chop around, they'll try to trap and prep the market for a bit of a trap into the open, trap them, and then go the way they want to go. Okay, so if it's down now, it's a good chance they want to ramp it back up again. So just be wary of that. But either way, that looks like to me that's starting to roll on the bigger term time frame, the longer term time frame anyway. All right, we got to US yen. US yen is more of just a bit of a mess to me still. Like we've always said, we've been saying for a few days now that the Japanese government, the BOJ, they don't want to see more shorts diving into the yen, which should power this market higher. They're trying to offset that by talk of some sort of measures they're going to take, and that's what you saw a bit of profit taking with this market move down. Now, market's moved down, found some support at 21.31, so 121.31. Found some support through there. You can see 1, 2, 3 tests before we started to ramp up. Nice little entry if you're going to go long here for a bit of a squeeze up. It's gone through, back through 22, 40 and a half, 40 and a half. But I think we're going to find some resistance back here at 123.23.1 if it does get there, back into here, and then find some lower highs off that. So potentially looking to sell off here, or we're starting to get this lower high, fade back down through 122.40 and a half. Okay, gold. Now, gold to me, it's grinding its way off that high at 1950. It's just been a bit of a grind. We spoke about this, expecting it to go lower. It did go lower. It's pressed into that 1916 area. We're going to see if I buy sort of flush into that level and see if we can higher low and see if we can work and squeeze out some of these sellers. Otherwise, yeah, just be wary it doesn't flush straight up and you're looking for that break, and it's just a bit of a spike through. Get a dollar through before we start getting back down through 1916 and lower. Longer term, there's a chance that we've got this kind of move up, lower high, straight back down to lows at 1894. Potentially, this is a key lower high. So if that breaks there at 1916, I would expect it to push down to 1894, even test into these lows even lower. Okay, so for me, for bulls, you want to see a flush into there and see if this can hold 1916 for a move back up to 1950. Oil's good. Sorry, we're going a bit longer than normal. Oil looks like it's finally starting to unravel a bit. You've got a key lower high here, if we can get back there, in comparison to this lower high when we're trading up towards, that $1.30 mark. Lower high coming to play there. We've got these lower highs, this leg down starting, resistance at 107.55. Then again, we've got this little high that's held, lower high at 104.67. Now we're back below that 101.75 and we're starting to press into these lows now. So I would expect if this starts to hold, we're looking down to 93.15, which we spoke about on Friday as well. So as long as that level holds at 101.75 as a lower high, that market's going to creep its way down until OPEC decide that's enough's enough and they cut supply. World's biggest manipulated market on good old oil. Copper. Now, copper is a bit messy still between that 101.93 area and 103.65. It did press up into this 104.99 and fail. Okay, we flushed through the highs, failed. Now we've got lower highs holding, so maybe this is another lower high at 103.65 zone, and we're going to press down through 101.93. So the key, and I feel like that's going to happen. It looks like that to me that's going to happen, but it's just whether or not this is going to hold. Now we're coming off a double top, whereas the last times it's hold, it's not. It's just sort of that push up, back down again. This time round, we're coming off a double top or a failure, retest fail, we call it. So there's a good chance that there's more sellers coming in this time round. Okay, more sellers to pressure and less buyers to come and sort of support that level, 101.93, and which would mean it's going to go through there potentially 148 or even lower. Okay, over to the cryptos. Just finish up there. Now they were well supported from the open. They were talking about this on Friday, flushing. They just ramped straight back up again, held this inside, sort of a higher low just below that level, which would mean, so if you're looking at that, flushing through a key level into this zone here, we've closed that gap there, and you come and get this higher low just below the area. You just want to be long because you know that was a bit of a trap for shorts. Okay, any shorts jumping in, and that's going to entice some buyers to start ramping it back up again, which it did. With this bit of a flush up to 47,570 into the US close, which was actually, that was early hours this morning. Flushed into that high, straight back down again. So whether we're going to get this kind of a failure, we got a bit higher. I'd look for a lower high off that level, 46,875 on Bitcoin. Ethereum's a lot stronger. Excuse me. Ethereum's a lot stronger. It's got through this level at 34.43 and held. It really powered through there. So maybe we're coming back into test into that zone, looking to hold a higher low and pressing up to 36.35. Okay, but it is extended. You can see by the MACD. I look at that for sort of extensions, momentum slowing and things like that. Momentum slowing up to a resistance zone, there's a good chance you're going to get a short off that resistance zone. All right, so we'll just wait to see how that plays out. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining me. Hope that was of some interest. And like I said, usually if you like what you hear, it'd be great if you can jump on the YouTube channel, have a poke around, look at that and subscribe, and give us a thumbs up if you like it, and help us grow this channel and really get some traders on the right path. All right, guys, thank you, and we'll speak to you soon.